Nutrition Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Welcome to yet another wonderful segment. This segment is powered by Fusion Mobile e-learning platform, a kind of clinic that provides solution and as well carries you through the solution. So for today on biology, we'll be looking at plant nutrition, and once again your anchor, your host remains Olajide. So we'll be going through these various outlines. What is plant nutrition? What is photosynthesis? We'll be looking at conditions that are necessary for photosynthesis to occur. We'll be looking at the various stages involved in photosynthesis. We'll be looking at the importances of photosynthesis to nature, and by extension, we'll also be looking at the mineral requirements for plants. So the first question for today is, okay, so the question now is, what is plant nutrition? Now what I want you to have at the back of your mind is this: if there is plant nutrition, definitely there will be animal nutrition, because plants and animals cohabit the earth. So what is plant nutrition? Now, to a layman out there, plant nutrition talks about a nutrition that is being carried out by plants. What is nutrition then? And nutrition is generally the mode of feeding of living organisms. How living organisms feed, the process of digestion, the production process, the process involved in the manufacturing of food. Now, I dare to say that plant nutrition is also known as autotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic mode of nutrition. The word auto means self, or we can simply say self-made. The word trophic refers to feeding or nourishment. So in all totality then, we can say that autotrophic mode of nutrition is a self-made type of nutrition, where plants get to manufacture their food by themselves. However, it is not only plants that carry out autotrophic mode of nutrition. There are also some bacteria, though they are plants, that carry out what? Autotrophic mode of nutrition. However, autotrophic mode of nutrition is never possible without a particular part of plant. And that part of plant is called the leaves. Okay, leaf. Right on the board here we have the structure of a leaf, and we're going to be doing the labeling together. This particular part here is known as the top of the leaf, and because it's the top of the leaf, it is called the leaf apex. Now the line that runs from the top down to the bottom here, dividing the leaf into two equal halves, is called the mid-rib. Let's particularly the outermost part, or should I say the extreme end of the leaf, this particular part that I'm tracing right now, is called the leaf blade. Now the inner lines in the leaf are referred to as what? Veins. We'll call them veins. Now in some cases you might come across a particular leaf that has smaller outlets, like smaller outlets such as this. We'll call those outlets veinlets. Now the base of a leaf is called the leaf stalk. So I think we've done the basic thing that needs to be done. Now this is a leaf, and this happens to be the different parts of a leaf. The leaf apex talks about the top of the leaf. The leaf blade talks about the margin of the leaf. We have the midrib that divides the leaf into two equal halves, and we have the veins that are actually in the leaf and responsible for transportation of foods, and we have the veinlets, which are smaller veins. So again, this is the structure of a leaf. Let's go back. So having established the fact that autotrophic nutrition is plant nutrition, and it's a type of nutrition where food are manufactured by plants themselves. But how do they get to manufacture this food? This Okay. Now you and I know what is called light. The light from the sun is called sunlight. It's a special type of light. It is not light from bulbs. It is not a light from explosion or any other thing. It is basically light from the sun. So we call it sunlight. And sunlight is also known as what? Solar energy. Now the leaves get to what? Trap sunlight. It is this sunlight that the leaves what tend to what? Use to what? Provide food. Or it is the sunlight that the leaves assess, and after it has finished assessing it, with the help of other factors that are also present, food is therefore what? Prepared, or food is therefore what? Produced. So again, I think for the last time before I move further, plant nutrition talks about autotrophic mode of nutrition. It's a kind of nutrition where plants get to manufacture their food by themselves. Now this is actually made possible by a particular structure or a specialized structure called the leaves. The leaves help in trapping sunlight during the day. Then when the sunlight is being trapped, with the help of other factors, food is being produced. Now can we just move on to photosynthesis? Now before we go extensively into photosynthesis, I would love to show you a chart that would help us better in understanding the other concepts. Okay, so basically plant nutrition is subdivided into two. We have photosynthesis and we have chemosynthesis. And I said earlier, I said plant nutrition is also known as autotrophic mode of nutrition. It is also called holophytic mode of nutrition. So you can say it is autotrophic, you can as well say it is what? Holophytic. Now before we deal extensively with photosynthesis, some few questions will pop up on your screen. Just try as much as possible to try providing answers to it. So welcome back. Now photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Now photosynthesis basically is the process by which the greenish part of plants manufacture their food in the presence of sunlight, mineral salts, chlorophyll, and some other factors which I will list out. But there's something you need to understand here. Photosynthesis basically needs two factors for it to be successful. We have what we call the what? The external factors. And we have what we call the what? The internal factors. Okay. So as I said earlier, there are two major factors that have to be present before photosynthesis can take place. One is external factor, while the other one is internal factor. Again, let me recap. I said photosynthesis is the process by which the greenish part of plants manufacture their food in the presence of external factors and internal factors. Now, what part of plants is responsible for photosynthesis? The leaf. What kind of leaf? The green leaf. The green leaf is responsible for photosynthesis, not the yellow leaf, not a brown leaf. It's the green leaf that is responsible for photosynthesis. Now, what is so special about this green leaf? What's so special about the color? How come color red cannot perform the function? How come color blue cannot perform the function? Now, it is very, very easy. Now, there is a pigment that is responsible for the green color of leaves. What is that pigment called? It is called the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll is the pigment that is responsible for the greenish color of leaves. And this chlorophyll is housed in a structure. It is contained in a structure called the what? Called the chloroplast. So plant has got chloroplast. Are you with me? So basically every plant that has chloroplast must have chlorophyll. And every plant that has chlorophyll must have a greenish color. And if the leaf is green, then photosynthesis is ready to take place. All they need leaves to do is just trap sunlight. Then with the after it has been trapping the sunlight, it makes use of some other external factors and internal factors, then it is good to go. Let me recap for the last time. Photosynthesis is the process by which the greenish part of plant, which has chlorophyll, that's why it is green, and what is containing the chlorophyll, it is the chloroplast. So it is the greenish part of plant which is a leaf. The leaf happens to be the greenish part of plant, and it is that part that is responsible for photosynthesis. That part is responsible for photosynthesis. If you have been following me closely, by now you should have been able to find out two external factors. Find out one external factor and one internal factor that must be present before photosynthesis can take place. So far I've made mention of one, and that one is internal factor. So one internal factor is what? Chlorophyll. It is internal. It is not external. It is not Mary Kay. It is not powder that we happen to apply to our face. That's external. This one is inbuilt. It is internal. It is just like the melanin in humans that's responsible for skin color. Now this one is responsible for plant skin color. So basically we have chlorophyll, which is the internal factor that is responsible for photosynthesis. And as well, aside chlorophyll, we also have what we call enzymes. So the two internal factors that are responsible for photosynthesis are chlorophyll and enzymes. They are what? Chlorophyll and enzyme. So really let us look at the external factors that are responsible for photosynthesis. External factor. Now one of the external factor is carbon 4 oxide. Now carbon 4 oxide is called CO2. Carbon oxygen 2. Now 2 here is pronounced as 4. Carbon 4 oxide. Carbon 4 oxide is what? Very, very essential for photosynthesis. Aside from carbon 4 oxide, we need sunlight. External sunlight. Energy from the sun, the light from the sun. We need sunlight. Aside from sunlight, we need what we call optimum temperature. Optimum temperature is the temperature at which photosynthesis tends to take place efficiently. The word optimum talks about average. At this temperature, we get a desired result. So it is optimum temperature. Aside from optimum temperature, we also have other factors such as mineral salts, and the last on the list is what we call water. Now, all these factors being present, coupled with the internal factors, which are just like I listed earlier, which are chlorophyll and enzymes. When all these factors are present, photosynthesis will take place. So let me give you another definition of photosynthesis. Therefore, so photosynthesis is a process by which the chlorophyllous part of plants, the chlorophyll talks about green, talks by the chlorophyllous part of plants manufacture their food in the presence of internal conditions such as enzymes and chlorophyll, as well as external conditions such as carbon 4 oxide, sunlight, optimum temperature, mineral salts, and water. Now, having explained this, we will now move further, and we will be looking at the stages of photosynthesis. There are basically two stages involved in photosynthesis. We have the light phase and we have the dark phase. We have the light phase and we have the dark phase. Now, light phase has a characteristic daylight, while dark phase talks about darkness. So, light phase takes place during the day, dark phase takes place at night. Now, what is the major difference between light phase and dark phase? Now, as we continue in this class, I would explain better, and I'm quite sure you get it. A light phase of photosynthesis. Now, the light phase of photosynthesis takes place during the day. Here, the leaf traps sunlight. So, after the leaf has finished trapping the sunlight, okay, let me show you the diagrammatic representation. Now, this is the leaf. This is the sun. So, the leaf, let's perform a kind of magic hypothetically. Let's play with our imagination. So the leaf tends to trap sunlight. When it traps, it comes in. This is the greenish part, color green. It is green in color. Okay. Now when it traps this greenish part during the day, dew falls, and aside that, the leaf also traps sunlight. Aside from sunlight, rather, the leaf traps what we call water. Now, It is a known fact that the stomata opens during the day and it closes at night. When it opens during the day, it absorbs water from the surrounding. So when it absorbs water, which is an external factor, coupled with sunlight, which is an external factor, then it needs one other factor that must be present before photosynthesis can undergo a forward reaction. Take note, we have water which has been absorbed by the leaf from the surrounding. We have sunlight which has been trapped by the leaf from the surrounding. Now we need what we call carbon dioxide. In our previous class, I talked about breathing and respiration. So breathing is one of the processes of respiration. We breathe in oxygen and we bring out carbon dioxide. Now, when humans tends to bring out carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Now, when it is released into the atmosphere, abundance of it becomes poisonous to man. It becomes poisonous to nature. So we thank God for plants. What plants do in this case is to absorb all the CO2 in the atmosphere. We release CO2. Plants make use of this CO2. In turn, they release oxygen. So the CO2 that has been released by the human into the atmosphere will now be taken in by plants through the what? The stomata. Now, when they take in this CO2, hypothetically, we now have what we call water, and we have what we call carbon dioxide. Then we make use of what we call what? The sunlight. Aside from this sunlight, we also need another factor which is internal, and that's what? Chlorophyll. Now, when we have this present, the reaction will move this way. We call it forward reaction. So it moves from the left hand side to the right hand side, which is forward reaction. When it moves, we have what we call simple sugar. Simple sugar will be formed. Are you with me? Now, aside from this simple sugar, something else will be formed, and that thing is called what? Oxygen. Aside from oxygen, lastly, energy will also be released. Now, this oxygen that is being produced is a byproduct. It is not needed by the plant. Rather, it is given off into the atmosphere. It is this oxygen that is given off into the atmosphere that humans will take in. You see the way it works. We release CO2 into the environment, plants will make use of it, and they now give us oxygen in return. Now, it is this give and take nature of humans and plants that puts nature in check. So let's move on. Now we've established the fact we've established that fact that deals with the coming in of water. We've looked at CO2, and I said when these two tend to react in the presence of sunlight, which is an external factor, and chlorophyll, which is an internal factor, a simple sugar is produced. Now this sugar in this case is not Dangote sugar. It is not those sugar in your kitchen. This sugar talks about something more. Let's just say it's imaginary. So we have simple sugar, we've got oxygen, and we've got energy. So we are still on the stages of photosynthesis. So the first one is what we call the light phase. Now we'll look at it extensively. Okay, so now we're looking extensively at the light phase of photosynthesis. First thing you need to know is that it takes place during the day. Here the leaf traps sunlight. The leaves also, it traps sunlight. Now, an important phenomenon also takes place in this phase, and that phenomenon is called what? The photolysis. The photolysis of water. Some people tend to pronounce it as photolysis, but it's anyhow you pronounce it, that's all is well. So it's called photolysis of water. Now, what is photolysis of water? Leaf traps sunlight. The sunlight is now responsible for splitting water molecules. Those sunlight will split these water molecules into two. And now, as a result of the splitting, we will now have two end products. Now, what are these end products? One of them is what we call the what? We have the hydroxide, while the other one is what we call the hydrogen. So basically, when we split water, we have hydroxide ion, and we also have what? Hydrogen ion. Now, photolysis of water can only be carried out with the help of sunlight. Are you with me? Photolysis of water takes place only under light phase of photosynthesis. Light phase of photosynthesis takes place during the day. What is photolysis of water again? It is a process by which water molecules is splitted into hydroxide ion and hydrogen ion as a result of the penetration of sunlight. Now let's move on. So since we know that photolysis of water takes place here, and okay, let me show you a balanced chemical reaction. This is 4 water. When we split it down, we have what we call 4 hydrogen, H plus, and we have 4 hydroxy. OH man. Now let's try and see if it's balanced. 4 times 2, 8. So here we have 8 hydrogen. 4 times 1 here is still 1. So we have 4 oxygen. So let's get, we have 4 hydrogen here. Is it balanced? Okay, 4 hydrogen. It remains 4 hydrogen. We have another 4 hydrogen here. 4 times 8, 4 hydrogen, and we have 4 oxygen. So it is balanced. So this basically is the reaction for what? The light phase of photosynthesis. Are you with me? Sunlight helps to break down water molecules into hydrogen and hydroxy ion. Now the last stage, that is the last features or attribute that is worthy of note under light phase is that it takes place in the grana. Now the grana happens to be stacks of thylakoid membrane that are found in the chloroplast. So never forget this, that the light phase of photosynthesis takes place in the grana. It takes place in the grana. Photolysis of water molecule also takes place in the light phase. And lastly, under the light phase, the leaf traps sunlight. So let's quickly move to the dark phase of photosynthesis, having it in mind that we have 2 end products that were taken in to the next stage. Now, the dark phase of photosynthesis takes place at night. You would recall that I said photolysis of water molecule takes place in the light phase, and in that light phase we have hydrogen as the end product, and we have hydroxide as the end product as well. Now what happens is the hydrogen that is being produced in the light phase will now be brought over to the dark phase. So basically we have that hydrogen coming to the dark phase. So now this hydrogen, 4 hydrogen, comes into the dark phase. And now that the hydrogen is now present in the dark phase, it will now reduce, this hydrogen will now be used to reduce CO2. Now after this hydrogen has reduced the CO2, we now have a simple sugar, which is CH2ON. Are you with me? I said it takes place at night. The hydrogen that is produced in the light phase will be brought over to the dark phase. That hydrogen will now be used to reduce the CO2 that has been trapped by the leaf. So at the end of the day, at the end of the reduction process, we would have CH2ON as our formula. And now this is the formula for simple sugar. Now what are simple sugar? Simple sugar are glucose, fructose, and galactose. Now they are monomers, as the case may be. They have 6 units of carbon. 6 units of carbon. So basically we have CH2O. So this is the formula for simple sugar. So simple sugar is formed in the dark phase. One last point that is important to note under dark phase is that it takes place in the stroma. The stroma is the liquid portion of the thylakoid membrane that are present in the chloroplast. Okay, welcome back. So now we'll be looking at the importances of photosynthesis, the advantages of photosynthesis to nature. One of them is this. You and I know that one of the end product of photosynthesis is what we call one of the end product of photosynthesis is what we call simple sugar. Well, mind you, there is something I actually need to show you before I get to this place. So let's just go back a bit. So I need to show you the formula for photosynthesis, because teaching you everything without the formula is just like blowing air into the wind. It doesn't even make sense. So look at it. This is the standard formula for photosynthesis. We have 6 water. Water, as you know, is liquid, plus 6 carbon dioxide, 6 CO2, as you know, is gas. We have this. Now we have sunlight here, and we have chlorophyll here. So at the end of the day, we have C6H12O6, and we have 6 oxygen. Then aside this, we have energy at ATP. Okay, now this is water. This is carbon dioxide. This is glucose, a simple sugar. This is oxygen, or oxygen as the case may be. Now oxygen here is given off as byproduct. It is given off as byproduct. They want energy at ATP. ATP is a means for storing energy. It's a currency. And then when you get to the filling station, you pay and you get your fuel. And now here, for you to store energy, it has to be in the form of ATP, like a medium of exchange. So ATP is a means for storing energy. It simply means adenosine triphosphate. I know my science stream, don't worry, I will still get there. So basically, one thing that is worthy of note is this. oxygen is given off. Oxygen is given off doing photosynthesis. Never forget. And this oxygen that is given off doing photosynthesis, where is it gotten from? Is it from the light phase or the dark phase? Remember the light phase, we talk about photolysis of water. So oxygen is given off as a result of photolysis of water, which takes place in the light stage of photosynthesis. Are you with me? So this oxygen is gotten from water molecules. Oxygen is gotten from water molecules and not from carbon 4 oxide molecules, because I actually showed you here clearly that CO2 was only made use of in the dark phase. Are you with me? So oxygen is given off as a result of photolysis of water. Photolysis of water takes place in the light phase of photosynthesis, and photolysis of water is only photolysis of water, as the name speaks, talks about what? The breakdown of water, not CO2. So please never forget, oxygen is gotten from the breakdown of water molecules. So now let's quickly move back to the importances. What benefit do we derive from photosynthesis as living organisms? What benefit do we derive from photosynthesis, looking at it from the standpoint of nature? Now, one of them is this: it is a building block of carbon skeleton. It is a building block of carbon skeleton. Now, you and I know that carbon is one of the major source of food. Are you with me? So this is basically referring to this. Now, one of the major source of food is photosynthesis. Without plants, I dare to say that humans will find it very hard to survive, because we depend directly or indirectly on plants for food. So photosynthesis is the building block of carbon skeleton. The last one, which happens to be very important, is that photosynthesis helps in the purification of the atmosphere. As I said earlier, as a result of our breathing process, we tend to give out carbon 4 oxide to the atmosphere. I hope you know that humans tend to breathe 72 times in a minute. So imagine humans breathing 72 times in a minute. That means we tend to release CO2 72 times to the atmosphere in a minute. So do you know how many CO2 you tend to release in the atmosphere in a day? It is unimaginable. So if plant does not exist, or if it happens that we know nothing of plants, CO2 will be too large in quantity in the environment, and when it is in the atmosphere, so to speak, we would get what we call CO2 poisoning, because it is too much. When we breathe out CO2, we can only take in CO2. So thank God for plant. As we bring out the CO2, the plant comes in, and the plant purifies the atmosphere. They act as sanitizer. They take in back this CO2 and they release oxygen for us. So basically, it helps in the building block of carbon skeleton, as well as the purification of the atmosphere. Thank you very much. So we'll quickly be moving on to the next segment, which is the mineral requirements for plants. What do plants need in order to survive? What do plants need in order for them to function efficiently? If those things they need are not present, what happens to them? As in, how do we know that a particular plant is lacking one particular nutrient or the other? All these we'll see as we move further in the course of the teaching. Okay, mineral requirements for plant. Now, it is worthy of note that there are basically two types of mineral nutrients that are needed by plants. What we call the macronutrients, and what we call the micronutrients. Now, the macronutrient is otherwise called the major element, while the micronutrient is otherwise called the minor or trace element. The macronutrient is called the major element. The micronutrient is otherwise called the minor or trace element. Now, what are the macronutrients or the major element? Now, these are the elements that are needed by plants in large quantities. I mean, they are needed by plants in large quantities. While the micro or the trace element are elements that are needed by plants in smaller quantities. Now, what are these major elements that are needed by plants in large quantities? They are phosphorus, calcium, carbon, zinc, iron, okay, potassium, nitrogen, oxygen, and every other major element that you could ever think of. Now, minor or trace elements are elements that are needed in smaller quantities. We have MO. MO is called molybdenum. We have cobalt. Cobalt is also needed in smaller quantity. We have what we call boron. Boron is needed in smaller quantity. We have what we call iodine. No, okay, boron generally. Boron is also needed in smaller quantity. Now, there's something I would like to tell you. We have iron, and aside iron, okay, under here we also have what we call manganese. While here we have what we call magnesium. Now, take note. Manganese is not magnesium, as magnesium is not manganese. Manganese is needed by plants in small quantities. Magnesium is needed by plants in large quantity. Those basic ones tend to reappear over and over again, even when you're probably going for an exam or you just want to get knowledge on your own. You need to get conversant with this molybdenum, cobalt, boron, manganese, nickel. They are all needed in small quantities by plants. While the ones that are needed by large quantities are carbon, zinc, iron, potassium, nitrogen, oxygen, magnesium, iron. They are actually more than this. Even zinc, they are more than this, but you just need to get conversant with them. Now, why are they called major? Why are they called minor? They are called major because they are needed by plants in large quantity. They are called minor or trace element because they are needed by plants in small quantities. However, it is worthy of note that if any of these major quantity tends to be absent, the plant show a response to it. Are you with me? It's just like you are being slapped now. You show a response. Is that you move towards the direction of the slap or you move away? So basically, when plants lack this, they show response, and that response makes us know what they have been through. Are you with me? So basically, when plants lack iron or manganese, they tend to undergo what we call chlorosis. When they lack iron or manganese, they tend to undergo what we call chlorosis. Now, what's chlorosis? Chlorosis basically means the yellowing of leaves. As I said earlier, a typical leaf should be green. I'm not saying must. Taking the word I said, a typical leaf should be green. However, when the leaf is not green, the leaf is showing yellowish color, then that leaf is lacking what we call iron and manganese. Those are the basic components of chlorophyll pigment. So when they are not there, you see it. Are you with me? Most times the leaf grows and it's kind of pale. Are you with me? So those are the symptoms that they show. Now, whenever any of these nutrients, whether macro or micro, is not present, the leaf or the plant parts show what we call deficiency. Deficiency. And how do we know that they are showing deficiency? We know based on their symptoms. Are you with me? So basically, when plants start showing yellowing of leaves, which is chlorosis, it means there is no manganese and no iron. Now, zinc is actually needed by the plant for oxidation reaction. Are you with me? Manganese at times is also needed for catalytic reaction. They help to catalyze reaction. They foster the rate of reaction. And nitrogen, as we know, is very, very important. Carbon is very important. Zinc is very important. Iron is very, very important. So these are the things that you need to know. Now, aside this, there's something we call culture solution. Now, a culture solution is basically it's a solution that contains all the mineral requirements by plants. It's a solution, and in that solution, every requirement needed by plants is there. Now, there are two examples of culture solution that have been produced in the lab. We have what we call Knopf's solution, and we have what we call Sachs solution. Knopf solution and Sachs solution. So you need to get conversant with these. They are examples of culture solution. A solution that has all the mineral requirements, has carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all mineral requirements needed by plant. And again, there is something I need to explain to you, the concept of translocation. I said food is being produced during photosynthesis. Now that food that is produced needs, there is a greater need for that food to be transported to every part of the plant. You know, just like I'm standing, I've got my hands, my legs, my head and all that. Now for plants, they have the branches, they have the flower, they have the buds, they have the stem, they have the roots. Now food that are produced by the leaf needs to be transferred to every part of the plant via the stem. Now there are two transport systems that will make use of. We have what we call phloem and what we call xylem. Now that food material has been produced, the phloem will carry the food from the site of production to every part of the plant. Don't forget, the xylem carries mineral salt, while the phloem carries food. Food, F-O-O-D. They carry food from the site of production to every part of the plant. So it is actually a good thing that you actually got what I said so far. So basically with this, we would be rounding on the class. And I am pleased to inform you that we have been able to cover what is plant nutrition. We have been able to look at photosynthesis. We have been able to look at the various criteria that must be present for photosynthesis to take place. We have looked at the stages, the light phase and the dark phase. We look at the various importances ranging from the purification of air to the building block of carbon skeleton to the production of food. And we look at mineral requirements by plant. We look at major or macro element, and we look at micro element. So a few questions will pop up on your screen as usual. Try as much as possible to attempt them, and for proper clarity you can go through the audio visual or video again. Thank you very much. It's been a great time out with you. Peace.